All right, the property prequel. Be in the know before you buy. Crossy, another week in real estate, mate.
It's Rams. Good to be here. Yeah, mate, it is. It's been another good week. Interesting week. We're getting towards the end of the year now, so activity's starting to taper a little bit, but still a hell of a lot of interest in the market and what's going to happen next year, which we'll keep speaking about, of course.
Yeah, I'm noticing, obviously, we're recording now in December. This one's probably going to get released around mid-December. A bit of a clock off of what I've actually found, not only real estate, but a lot of the segments of business at the moment. Seems like a lot of people are switching off a little bit earlier than usual. It's been a big 2 years, I guess you could say, and obviously with these borders opening up and different things and more news. So it seems as though definitely from a market sense, I'm noticing open home numbers are dropping, some auction clearance rates are dropping, but also a lot of people are just sort of switching off, getting ready for a big autumn, I reckon, into 2022.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's particularly in our industry, that's certainly the case. Our guest today is probably quite the opposite. She's a very busy woman this time of year, and we're obviously very grateful for her to come in and keen to discuss her story. So, yeah, mate, we might tape her off, but she's about to ramp right up. So, keen to have a chat with her.
Yeah, and it's exciting. Just on today's guest, I don't know how we keep doing it. We keep nailing some absolute ripping guests.
Yep.
And it's great to see because a lot of the feedback we've been getting, especially in the messages, and anyone who is listening, obviously we're so young as a podcast, but getting so much good feedback. I really appreciate anyone who's sending those messages. I had one last night that was like, you just don't know who's listening. Like some people from our immediate network, but friends of friends of friends, and they're just like, it's added so much value from that pain point of the pre-purchase, and hence the reason we're getting some of these guests who have, they talk the talk, but they're walking the walk, and they can share some insight. So today's guest will be a really relatable one to, I guess, a lot of people because busy mum, professional, time poor, I guess, in a sense, but also making it happen. Like doing, I'm really excited to get into the space of how she purchased their property and went through a bit of a knockdown rebuild, which is a really popular one at the moment. So today's guest is Liz Cantor. Obviously, a lot of people might know Liz from Channel 7. It's fun. I think Liz Cantor is one of those ones, I don't know what you think, Crossy. You know when you just flick on the TV and those TV personages keep popping up?
Yep.
Whether it's like on a Sunday cricket, what is it, Crick the Coast, I think?
Yeah.
And then maybe a 9 p.m. Powerball draw.
Exactly.
There's Liz Cantor popping up.
She keeps stitching me up. She hasn't drawn the numbers out, but I don't know what's going on. But maybe we can talk to her about that.
And you know what? She's popped up on the property prequel. So Liz, thanks for stopping by. We know you're busy, so we're really grateful to have you.
Oh, it's so good to be here. When Nathan reached out, I was pretty excited about the opportunity to share my story because I think there was a lot to be learnt from it. And I'm in a fortunate position now. If I can make someone else's journey a bit easier to finding their home, then I definitely feel obliged to do that.
And it's a big one and it's an exciting one because I know a little bit of your backstory. I didn't want to get too deep into it because, as I said, we're pretty candid on here and we'd love for you to share your journey wholeheartedly. But one thing, I guess, is that knockdown rebuild space that we'll get into just to excite the buyers on what's coming. Real candid journey and look at that. And also just around any lessons to buyers out there because, again, this podcast is all around alleviating that pain point in the pre-purchase phase. So, but
gosh, and there was so much pain in the pre-purchase phase for us.
Yeah.
So I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Going to get nitty gritty.
Yeah. Are you okay? You're sitting down, so we don't want to be too painful. But before we do that, Matty, I wanted to ask Liz. I mean, I know the story, but tell the viewers and listeners, Liz, around obviously your career so far. We know what you do, but
who I am?
Who the hell is
Liz? Who's Liz Cantor?
Yeah, for the few people that don't know.
Who's this person that keeps popping up on
I'm so
7?
sorry.
That's right. She's the gig star.
Yeah. Well, it has actually eventuated that I am doing a fair few things. So Creek to Coast is where I started with Channel 7. I came from a competitive surfing background.
Oh, really?
Actually surfed for Billabong for many years and travelled on the World Qualifying Series. Loved my surfing, loved competing, but could tell that I was never going to be a Steph Gilmore. I was always going to struggle kind of in the middle range to the bottom range.
Yep.
And my main passion, I come from a family of storytellers. My mum's an English teacher. My auntie was a journalist in television and travel media. So I just always had this driving desire to share stories and information with other people. So I stopped surfing. Well, I didn't stop surfing. I stopped competing. I went to university and got myself a journalism degree, and then combined it with a meteorology course with the Bureau, and went to Channel 7 and started off with Creek to Coast, which is a boating, surfing, fishing show.
Yep.
Hounded the news director for a job in weather, which I'm fortunate enough to still do today. And from there, it also branched out into Weekender, which is a Sunday afternoon travel show, which is, you know, just a dream gig to have. And the Powerball draw, which I will call your numbers after I call my mum's, Nath, because if I call anyone's before mum's, I'm in serious trouble.
That's a fair point.
But I actually have had one friend have a win so far on Powerball, which was pretty impressive. My best friend, she was one of my bridesmaids. She started dating a guy. They'd only been together for 2 months, and she didn't know what to get him for Valentine's Day. Because what do you get someone for Valentine's Day when you've been together 2 months? Like, you got to be very careful with that. Can't be too much. So she got him a Powerball ticket in a card. Very casual, like, here you go, happy Valentine's Day. They didn't win the top division, but they won just under $12,000.
Wow.
Oh, you're joking.
So they actually flew first class over to Europe and had a holiday together, and they're now married with twin boys.
Good story.
So yeah, it was a good start to their
amazing.
relationship, and it worked out.
And
so it does happen.
And it was on your watch, basically.
Well, I like to take the credit for it. So.
And just a little one before we move into obviously adding value with the property. How do people get into like TV? Obviously, one thing I noticed with people on TV, because I did Toastmasters for a bit.
Oh, cool.
And I've been really mindful of the way people talk now, and they don't say ums and ahs. Like, did you practice like to get onto TV? Like, did you have to do like courses or?
I sure did. You've got
Like
a great
audition?
voice, by the way. I was thinking that about both of you the second you started talking. You're made for this.
Head's made for it, yeah.
Good head for radio. I've already said that to Liz. Different for you, maybe, but yeah.
I'm a Queenslander. I grew up in Sunshine Beach and spent most of my, teenage years on the Gold Coast. I was saying water when I first started working for television. So I really had to work on my articulation and the way I spoke. And it's been a lot of effort, to be honest, but it's been worth it. And I think the people I enjoy watching in media are authentic. So even though I've had to kind of clean myself up and do what's needed to be done for the bosses, and I always like to be true to myself still and be relatable. And I think you can only offer who you are. If you're trying to be someone else, it exhausts itself too quickly. And they either want you or they don't. So you offer yourself and you think, what can I bring into this landscape that someone else can't offer? And for me, I guess my point of difference was, if I am true to myself, I just love living life. So get me on a surfboard, get me boating, get me fishing, get me out there. I love weather. Weather determines what I'm doing in my world. So I love to share what's happening with the weather with others. And then who doesn't want to make other people a millionaire?
Well,
That's true.
That's it.
That is true.
And it's good. People will, it's one of those things, law of attraction. You'll start seeing Liz more and more now, just popping up.
She's everywhere.
Now that she's been on the prequel.
And I must admit, I've done a couple of events with Liz, been lucky enough to work with her, and she's such a pro. Like, she's so natural, and what you see is what you get. And then 5 minutes before showtime, she just people are still trying to talk to her, and she's so lovely. And I'm sorry, excuse me, I've just got to concentrate on this. And she'll duck outside, and she's just in the zone. And then she comes across as she does today. Like, she's so good at what she does. And obviously we're very lucky to have her on. And
Thank you, Nathan.
Which we want to talk about the property side. And as we alluded to, there's a fair bit to chat with Liz, and we know you're short on time. But one thing I wanted to ask you, we know that you've done the Knockdown rebuild, and that's been documented on YouTube, which Matt and I have both watched, which was excellent. But interested to know, when you started Ryan, your husband, when you and Ryan started, that wasn't always the exact thought that we're going to go out and buy a home, knock down and rebuild.
It was never our intention.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought. So take us through when you guys started the search for a home, what you were thinking at the time, and then as you went along, and if there was some disillusionment along the way, how your strategy actually changed.
When I became pregnant with my second son, we realised pretty quickly we were going to outgrow the duplex we were living in. We loved the area. We were in Miami, but the property was going to become too small. So we decided to put it up for sale and start the search. And we thought, we'll go rent somewhere for 6 months and not rush it and find somewhere to buy. We had been renting a unit for 2 years. We still hadn't found anywhere to buy. We had put countless offers on properties. We'd gone to auction twice with a bid. At both those auctions, we'd been told by the real estate agents that they thought we were a sure thing. We'd pushed to our max. We knew what the bank was going to lend us, and walked away from both of those auctions feeling really disheartened because we had been given the impression that we would get the house, but we'd been used a bit as leverage. And then outside of auctions, that began to happen too. Because we'd been searching for a property for so long, the real estate agents knew we were getting desperate to make an offer. They knew what our offer would be, and we were often played against another buyer because they could then get our offer, go to another buyer they knew could go slightly higher and say, well, we've got an offer, so you better put your offer in quick, smart, and we kept missing out. So it was very frustrating.
So just on that, emotionally, how did you guys feel during that time? Because Matt would see that in his business all day, every day, but interested to know like how you actually felt.
I think when you are in a position where you're bidding at auction, you know you are 100% committed to that home.
Yes.
So you've walked through that home and you've had to envision yourself living there with your family. You've moved in mentally. So to have moved in mentally and then hear the hammer come down and all of a sudden that isn't reality anymore, it's kind of a bit of a shock to the system. And you walk away and you just feel very flat. But then you hear so many people that are like, oh, it's just not meant to be, and that wasn't your home, and don't worry, the next one will be. But over time, I got frustrated with that. It, wasn't meant to be saying, and I was like, it's not about meant to be. The property market is becoming so competitive. You have to be savvy or you're going to keep missing out. So we shifted our game plan. I coincidentally, this might have been meant to be if you believe in that, which I don't, but I got invited by Metricon to host and MC one of their Knockdown rebuild evenings.
Okay.
And it was the first time I'd really seen information on the process of a knockdown rebuild. And I went home that night and I was Googling new properties and what they cost to build. And I turned to Ryan and I said, we know what the bank will lend us because of auction bidding. We know what our max is. If we deduct what a new home with Metricon is off that, how much do we have left over to buy an older property or land? And it actually came out quite affordably. So we knew what we had left over for land. I'm going to speak pretty freely. I'm just going to let you know my finances. So we were getting about 1.1 from the bank for auction. A new build with Metricon was coming in around the 400,000 mark. So
and what year is this? Just so people don't get eluded in 2020.
This is 2019.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
So it's a very different landscape now.
For sure.
And we ended up having, I think, 700,000 left over for a property, for land. So we skipped the real estate agents this time.
Like it.
And we went to the two suburbs we love, which was northern end of Palm Beach around Talabudra and Miami, which were our dream spots.
Great spots.
We went to every old shack we could find and letterbox dropped, saying we're serious buyers.
Wow.
We've got a family. We're desperate for a property. If you're interested in selling, we will make an immediate offer. Please give us a call. And what would you know? One house called. And Brian made an offer instantly. They asked to think about it, and the next day we got a phone call and they said, if you give us 10,000 more, we'll sell. And we just could not believe our luck, and that's where we were in. So we did it through private solicitors and just worked with this family together. It was a 90-year-old lady. She was ready to move on to a home that was a downsize, and we mostly dealt with her son. I was a little bit nervous because we knew we wanted to do the knockdown rebuild because we needed a larger size home. And when we spoke to the son and the lady, they said, what are you going to do? You're going to renovate this property because it was full of asbestos and mold. She'd only lived on the downstairs level. We were nervous to say we were going to knock it down, and we said, we're not sure yet. We might renovate. We didn't want
Some of those oldies, hey, they get,
And then I think it was, she said to us, oh no, knock this down, love. Like, you don't want to renovate this. So we felt a lot better. But I think she was really happy it was going to a family, and it was beyond work, to be honest.
Yeah. Wow. I just want to dive into that because what I'm hearing there is people, that's called an off-market transaction. and a lot of people never heard of that avenue of going off market. So you've done an off market, which I call, there's two prongs on off market. I think there's off market through a real estate agent who might have a listing or chatting to vendors, and then there's off market direct to vendor. So no real estate professional involved. So a lot more scarce, a lot more rare. And one thing there is she took initiative with her partner and they made it happen. Can you just, because a lot of people would like to try that straight. Well, like, what did the letter look like? Like, did you, because I've had some clients do the letter and they put a photo of like the family, the little baby on there.
Yeah.
And look, a lot more people are doing it. So you probably did it before it was in fashion. Was it just like a quick type of, hey, we're a family? Like
yeah, it was. It wasn't lengthy. It was very to the point.
Yep.
There really wasn't much fluff to it.
Yep.
But to be honest, I didn't even know about buyer's agents.
Yeah.
If we had known about someone who does the work you do, we probably would have engaged that first. Like that's such a gift to kind of cut through how we were starting to be played by a lot of the agents who were becoming very familiar with us. I think that would have avoided that situation slightly. But yeah, our letter was very straightforward, very to the point. I think we just got very lucky.
And did you pinpoint? Like, you did a drive by and you're like, number 6, number 12, number...
Oh, yeah.
Or, yeah? So it was all... Yeah.
Yeah,
so you had North Palm in Miami and you're like, street, number, boom, boom, boom.
Strategic.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Every
So a bit of
house
effort
on
was involved.
every street that looked like it was worse for wear.
Love that.
Did you get, just out of interest, Liz, did you get any other phone calls? Was
No.
it just the one?
Just the
Wow.
one. And I think we dropped off close to 27 letters.
Yeah, right.
So that shows you that there probably was a degree of luck involved. I think so much of it is about timing.
Timing, right place, right time. But again, she's taken action. Like, she had a crack, you know, and
there's a constant theme, isn't there? Every guest we have, it's all about the taking action.
Mate, it's a funny one because obviously working with so many buyers who are frustrated and whatnot, the ones who, I guess, don't get to their goal of what they want, they put the queue in the rack, they face a bit of adversity, the market's tough. Like, hearing that, it sounds like it was not months, it sounds like a few years you were battling the market or the, you know, other buyers, so to speak. So to show that resilience to keep going, it's really inspiring, especially where you had one kid at the time, one child, or one on the way.
Yeah, by the time we actually got the second property, we had our second son, Finn, with us.
Yes.
So when we started building, I think Finn was a year old.
Yeah,
so it was about 3 years we were looking for a property all up. And we thought it would be 6 months of renting while we looked to buy.
And it was a couple of years in the end of renting.
Yeah, so we bought in 2019.
Yes.
We sold, I think it was 2016.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, doing the maths.
Yeah.
And then, as Matt alluded to, you know, what year was it or whatever, and the market's different now, as you said, Liz, but when you started your build, which we'll talk about, that was interesting timing for you, wasn't it?
Wow.
There was a little bit going on at that time.
Oh, just a little bit.
When did you start the build?
The reason I wanted to do the YouTube series is because we had no experience in building. And when I was doing my research, because I'm a bit of a planner, I was finding a lot of conflicting opinions and a lot of misinformation online. And you go into these forums about different building companies, and there's a lot of almost scaremongering within there and bad experiences. And I thought, there isn't really anywhere I can go to learn about the experience, the terminology, the process from woe to go in an honest manner. So I approached Metricon. I knew I was going to build with them because their home, we looked at all the displays and actually all the home builders, but their homes fit our block the best. It was a 405 block, 10 metre frontage. They also, which is really interesting, we chose a 4-bedroom home, the Kira 31, but we converted it very easily and very affordably to a 5-bedroom home by changing a media room downstairs into a 5th bedroom with a wardrobe and putting a shower in the downstairs bathroom. So it doesn't display online as a 5-bedroom home, but we ended up with a 5-bedroom home just from asking. So I really advise anyone that is thinking about doing a new build with any of those home builders to also say what their dream home scenario is and see if it's possible, because they can be so accommodating. And we did things in that house, like there was meant to be an indoor outdoor area, but because we had a bit of yard space, we extended the indoor area and ended up with a veranda. And that actually saved us money because it was less materials. They didn't have to do the indoor-outdoor space. So they handed us back money for doing that change, which we thought would suit us better. But going backwards, what was the question? I went on such a tangent then. The year
when you started.
Okay, so 2019 we bought. We started building in January 2020 with the bushfires.
Really?
Remember the bushfires of 2020?
2020 was a wild year.
Oh, wasn't it wild? And then
so that's when you started.
That's when we started building.
Oh, cool.
Record-breaking rain on the Gold Coast happened in February, so
that's right.
flooding.
Yeah, wow.
And then by March, Corona arrived, which we now call COVID.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was a journey and a half, but we were really impressed. We were still in the home by June, so 6 months all up for the build, despite them having to stagger their contractors. So rather than a painter and an electrician being on the property at the same time, they had to do a painter, wait 2 days, electrician in, wait 2 days, tiler, wait 2 days. We had some delays with some materials for the property. Our sinks were going to hold us up, I think, 4 weeks. So we changed sinks, little things like that. But all up, I was very impressed with how they handled the situation. And it was just amazing. We were in by June 2020.
It's pretty quick. And that's probably the thing people don't realise is when you get help, as Liz is mentioning there, don't be alluded. It is a big macro project. It's huge. It's huge. To knock down a site and rebuild. But look into it because if you've got the right people around you, which Liz obviously did, and the one thing there as well, she had a plan on what she wanted it to sort of look like, and you thought family-wise, we want this. If you got all that, it can happen a lot quicker. Like that's one thing when I started looking into it for clients and that, it's actually not huge. And I know, Crossy, you've done some renovations and extensions and things like that as well. If you get the right team, would it be fair in saying that?
Mate, definitely. And even it's interesting what Liz said before around some numbers. Like her and Ryan actually reverse engineered everything, didn't they? They looked at what the actual overall spend could be and then go, man, we're having no luck here. So what's another strategy? So then they looked at another strategy and did that, which is very, very smart. And as you allude to, mate, I don't think people realise how affordable the building site can be. They just feel like it's this big number as opposed to if I just do some renovations, that's only going to cost me 15 grand and maybe 11 and 6 grand for that. But by the time you do it all, which I've been through it, and like I said on one of the shows a couple of weeks ago, I would have been better off knocking down and doing the rebuild like Liz did. But again, we like the character of the home and all that type of stuff. But it's interesting when you look at it from an overall macro, like you said, and particularly if you've got professionals involved, and you and I are both big believers in surrounding yourself with professionals, whether you're buying property or investing, whatever it is. Liz has obviously chosen a very reputable builder, Australia's biggest builder. They've delivered, as Liz said, on time, on budget. They actually saved a bit of money by changing a few things. So being strategic and thinking with the end in mind can make the overall difference in your experience.
That's a good tip. And on that, Liz, was there any, during the actual process, what were the main, I'm sure there would have been stressful points, as there is with everything in property, every aspect of it. What were the main, I guess, stress points as a family during the journey? Like what sort of kept you up at night the most, you think?
So this is what's so incredible. It was actually such an enjoyable process once we started building. The most stressful time was prior to build, before signing the contract, because with those companies, I think it all comes down to money and worrying about blowouts. And we signed the dotted line before building started. We knew what we were paying and we knew that wasn't going to move.
Fixed contract, was it?
Fixed contract. Okay. And prior to that fixed contract, it was almost embarrassing how many times we went in and out of Metricon. When we did the Studio M selections where you choose all your fittings, we would go home, look through, so we would choose what we want in our ideal home, get it costed, it would arrive to us, then we'd go through it with a yellow highlighter and just go, okay, so it's $4,000 for a frameless shower, whereas if we get a framed shower, it's going to go down to $400. Yellow highlighter, scratch the frameless shower. So we started with the dream in terms of fixtures, electricals, tiles, carpets, and then we got it down into our price point by going backwards, forwards, and just recosting. So that was quite a stressful time, deciding what to leave in, what to take out. But once we'd committed to that cost point, there was so much joy in just seeing it come together. Then when it finished, it became a little bit stressful again with getting quotes for landscaping.
Oh, okay,
I think we'd budgeted right for the pool. We'd set aside 15 to 20,000 for the pool. Landscaping, we'd put aside, I think, 20,000. And when we started getting our landscaping quotes through, they were usually around 30 to 40,000.
Okay.
So we actually had to go back and get another loan from the bank for landscaping to finish the property. That's the one place we underestimated. We budgeted right for the demolition. Everything else we were on point except for the finishing landscaping. And I think a garden can make a home. So it was something I really, really wanted.
Yes.
But in hindsight, I think we probably would have approached our landscaping differently.
Isn't it funny with landscaping? Because again, we're finishing the end of our renovation, my wife and I, and we're at the landscaping stage, and we're doing a lot of it ourselves. And the cost of plants, I've never driven past places before and gone, that's a nice plant. I wonder late at night, I wonder if I just walk past and grab that. You know,
It's so
I'm
true.
thinking, who am I becoming? Who is this person? But yeah, the cost of landscaping for something when you think your house is finished and then right, I'll just get that done. It's a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Is there any, so when you're budgeting for all aspects of the home, was there like what sort of buffer did you have, you and your partner sort of think of buffers or anything, or did you get advice on that? Or was it like, hey, we need to be safe for this and that, like kitchens or anything?
Yeah,
like,
Ryan and I are really different in that way. I like to go worst case scenario. So I'll always round up extremely because then I get really happy when it comes in under.
Yes.
But he likes to be more realistic, and he's like, oh no, it's going to be like, we're going to be right on this number. And I'm like, no, we need buffer though.
Yeah.
And what I loved about
tip.
Metricon, when they did their initial contracts as well, they do that. So they went with worst case soil, worst case noise. Like, so when they actually came to us with the contract, we'd been told it was going to be an estimate of such and such, and it came in under 12,000 less than what they said. And they were like, oh, good news, here's an extra 12 grand because your soil was S grade instead of F grade.
Okay,
and I was like, thank you, because it just leaves you feeling so uplifted because you've prepared for that bigger number. It's always better, I think, to come in under than have the paper in front of you and it be over.
100%.
And can I ask, like for a female in a building world, how was that experience for you? Because I know, like in the building game, there's a lot of, I suppose, acronyms thrown around, you know. And I noticed on your last one, you know, we're at PC, and what's PC, you know, like things like that. Like, did you for our female audience, is that something that you found overwhelming at times dealing in a male's world, or was it something you were quite comfortable with?
It's the complete motivation behind me doing the YouTube series. I'm someone who I really like to be knowledgeable in what I'm doing. I like to walk the walk before you talk the talk.
Yeah.
And I wasn't comfortable with being in that situation and hearing that terminology thrown around and not understanding what it meant. So I thought, if I've got to learn along the way, then I may as well impart that knowledge with other people too. So if there are other young mums out there, or females in general, or anyone in general really, males too, that have no building experience, they can feel confident in watching something like the YouTube series and learning in a very basic way.
Yes, that's a good
without
point.
having to disclose that to builders themselves and feel like a novice or feel like they might be undermined.
Yeah, and I certainly didn't want to sound sexist with that comment, because it's a great point you make about even males. And
100%.
I'm no tradie, I'll give you that tip. But blokes generally don't want to let on that they don't know something about building. So if it was a male, as you allude to, they might be thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? But they're too afraid to ask. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's great that you actually highlighted that. And anyone who hasn't seen it, we suggest go and have a look at Liz's YouTube on the Knockdown rebuild, because it's
give some insight. Yeah, I watched a bit of it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's raw, and it's really
great.
Insightful. And just on the female, I got to give the shout out, because again, a lot of the feedback as well on the podcast, there's a lot of boss ladies on the, especially in South. I'm telling you, and look, don't get me wrong. Again, not sexist, but there's a lot of males as well. But I'm finding so many, this generation of females, like even independent women with no families or anything, like and mums and busy, some single mums and families, like they're just bossing it at the moment.
Yep.
So Liz is a really good, I guess, inspiration to a lot of women out there, and this story is obviously gonna add so much value. But I guess before we sort of wrap up, Liz, and then when it all got complete, how was that feel? Like, what was it like? Like, what's the process? It's all done. Is it like you get handed the key? Like, what's that process?
It's a magical experience, especially when the landscaping was finally finished. But it doesn't stop. So, as I said, we moved into our property in June 2020. Look what's happened to the market now. If we were trying to do what we did now, it would be a completely different scenario. And not only that, we've been fortunate enough now to acquire equity in our build. We're in a position now to look at doing something smart with the equity, like an investment property, which is what we're looking at now. So just so grateful. And I think it's a big lesson learned as well. If you can make smart decisions with property purchase, it can really set you up in great ways. I made a big mistake, actually. I won a reality TV show called The Mole back in 2005. And there was a little bit of...
Oh, you had The Mole.
Yeah.
Great show.
I thought it was a great show. It was one of the original reality TV shows where it was about the game, not so much about the people.
Yes.
I love the game.
Yes.
So when I had that win, I made an emotional purchase. I bought a 1-bedroom tiny unit at Kira that just had this view of the lineup. Now, you know I'm a surfer, but I was never going to live in there. It was a rental property. Yeah. So when it came time to sell it, to buy our family duplex, I had a lot of trouble selling it because it was a 1-bedroom unit and the market had become saturated. So I did learn a lesson about units as opposed to buying land and investment properties as opposed to properties you will live in yourself. So it's just a learning experience the whole way. And it's quite fascinating when you look at the psychology of property, how it can affect your livelihood and lifestyle.
And just on that awesome little takeaway there.
Unbelievable. Supply
versus demand, big one. And one thing I noticed as well, we spoke about this, it's a lot what drives prices up. Look, people think, oh yeah, property's just it'll always go up in value. Not always true. There's all different asset types within property. There's units, there's houses, there's estates, there's townhouses, whatever. What Liz is saying there is if she had her time over, she'd look at something with more land to asset ratio.
Yep.
So something that's in more demand. You got more control. So obviously her 1-bed unit was, how many was in the complex?
It wasn't a huge complex. I think there was 30 in total.
Yeah.
But you're spot on. I wish I'd had the hindsight to know the value of land in that situation.
Yes.
And I had the unit for quite a few years. So over that time, all the property market grew. But I did buy in 2007 and I sold in 2014. I bought for $300,000 in 2007 and I sold in 2014 for $265. And I'd had the unit on the market for a year and a half.
Yeah, wow.
And that's interesting because Liz mentioned before about timing. 2007 was the start of the GFC.
Yeah.
So we had boom times 02, 03, 04. Market started to dip, and then from 07 through to about 14. 07's when I started doing property investment advising, and we were never advising people to buy on the coast. There was mining and regional areas doubling in 2 years. It was ridiculous. But timing's interesting, isn't it? But again, like Liz's logic to start with as a novice investor at the time was quite good because, like, she's a surfer, and generally properties near the beach always do well. She wanted to see the line up at Kira Point, as we all do. But it just wasn't the right time in the investment journey for that particular property in that particular suburb in that particular region. And that's what can happen with investing, you know, and we're seeing it now on the positive side the last few years, as Liz said. Thankfully she got in when she did, and I'm the same, you're the same, you know?
Exactly right. And to get on, just before we wrap up, the supply versus demand piece again, and this is a big reason why Liz, we really wanted her on with the Knockdown rebuild. It's such a common strategy right now. Land value is at all-time highs, especially in landlocked suburbs. There's no land available.
No.
In some of these suburbs in southeast Queensland and whatnot. So you either got to go to Whoop Whoop and find some land out there, or you got to get something rugged and old, knock it down and rebuild, which is so popular at the moment. So many people are doing it because, again, land is scarce. Land is super scarce at the moment.
So, Liz, what you've been through, the Knockdown rebuild with Metricon, knowing what you know, for the people listening and watching today, would it be something you'd recommend someone go through that process themselves if the time was right?
Absolutely. My husband and I loved it. We want to do it again, but it's an expensive hobby.
It is.
But it is. No regrets. To be living, we were putting offers on 4-bedroom houses and missing out and being crushed. We've ended up building a 5-bedroom house. Everything's new. Everything works. Everything has warranties. You know, there's no mold. There's no dust. It runs efficiently. We've got solar. Electricity bills are cheaper than we could ever have imagined. Just feel so fortunate to be in this position.
Unreal. And do you guys feel like that's your forever home? Like you'll be there for a while, you think?
I'm really happy with it. Ryan's already like, we could sell it for this, and I'm like, where do we go, babe?
Good point.
Where do we go? But
You get that every day.
I just on that, Liz, I love that because the market's hot, no doubt about it. Seller's market, you'll get a record price most likely. But one thing, even it goes against me as a buyer. Obviously, I want to help buy, but I got to say, if you're selling, where are you going? Because if you sell in a hot market, you got to buy in a hot market. So if you're in a good spot and you're stable and you've got the incomes and whatnot, hey, sometimes wait till things settle or
Ryan, I hope you're listening.
Yeah, or do
Settle down.
Sorry, Ryan.
do what Liz is doing and noticing the equity as well, because you could potentially do something. Good thing around property, you can borrow against the property, and sometimes if you can service, no money down as well. So it's really good story, isn't it?
Oh, it's unreal, and I think hopefully a lot of the listeners sort of took some value out of that. And one thing that we do like to ask, Liz, as we wrap up is like around legacy piece. Obviously, you got the 2 young boys, and you know you're a busy mum, working 1,000 different jobs here and there. What have you thought about over time, you and Ryan? You know where you want to be, and how much longer you want to keep working for, and what the legacy piece is for your children?
We actually are already looking into pulling out that equity and buying another investment property. I think our dream would to probably find 4 investment properties, and then when we get to retirement, sell 2 of them and rent 2 of them, so we can
Bit of passive income.
Just set ourselves up that way. Love to be beachside one day. So if we could shuffle across and be able to walk down for a surf in the morning, that would be the dream. But just very, very grateful for where we're at right now and trying to be in this moment while also making smart decisions for the future and for the family.
Yeah, being present. Yeah, with the boys. Well, that might lead us into the property prequel Fast 5.
Yeah, the Fast 5. And just before we head into that.
I didn't know about this Fast 5.
Oh,
it's fast.
It's far, and it's that popular, isn't it? Like
the viewers are bashing the door down wanting more.
Just before we go, Liz, just want to obviously acknowledge you. Thanks for coming on. I think the story, one thing I just heard there is Liz has got a lot of she's actually got visions and dreams and plans. So, yes, you're making it happen, but it's a really good trait to have. As I said, we get to interview a lot of successful people and everyday mums and dads who are doing great. And it's always a trait. They've got some sort of plan, taken action, and they're having a crack.
Yes.
So you're going to be a real inspiration to not only obviously females, but families and people with kids and who are juggling life, which is tough these days with life getting busy. So I just want to acknowledge you, Liz. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with the Fast 5, first thing that comes to mind, Liz. So no budget in mind. This is just whatever. All right. First thing. So where's the holiday home? Anywhere in anywhere in the
Sunshine
world.
Beach.
Is that Noosa?
Yeah.
Noosa, hey. Good spot.
Back home.
I love the national park there in that little corner.
Oh, really? What sort of dwelling?
A house.
Yep.
With an ocean view.
With a view.
And beachfront access.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Your own little walkway.
There is a property at the far northern end of Sunshine Beach. It's always in the press lately. It was built by a Swedish billionaire. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's built into the home. I mean, into the hillside.
Into the hill.
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
And it's it's eco-friendly. I think it's 11 bedrooms.
Wow.
Yeah. Google Sunshine Beach properties, and it's one of the first to come up. It's spectacular.
Wow.
So I'll buy that, please.
Yeah. It's nice and bougie out there. Good vibes, eh? Sunshine.
Yeah.
Love it. Blue chip investment property. Any budget anywhere in the world where you're looking for some cash flow?
Well, you know what? Anywhere in Southeast Queensland prior to the next Olympics in 2032. I think it's such a good time to buy in this area. I know what happened in Sydney with suburbs like Parramatta. Nathan, you imparted your experience down there with myself. So I think it shows that when the Olympics comes to town, it won't just be Brisbane City. It will spread outside.
Spread out. Yeah,
That
good
ripple.
Good point. Good point. All right. before the family, Liz has got the girls together. Where are we having a party? Where's the girls all letting their hair loose?
Oh my
Whereabouts in the world and
gosh.
what
It's probably
dwelling?
happened. It's
the
already-
party
This is
house.
my
Yeah.
dream conversation right now.
How long we got? Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the Carlisle in Brisbane at the moment. I know
yeah.
it's a bit of a hot spot,
Yeah.
but if you said anywhere in the world,
Anywhere in
I'm
the world.
really missing Bali.
Oh, it's
I'm
good,
really
eh? I said
missing
that to someone the
Bali.
other day. Yeah.
Just, Seminyak and surf out the front all day and then beautiful
Good
food
food,
in the
eh?
evenings.
Yeah.
And if I had to take the kids, then there's amazing, like $5
Yeah.
an hour for a nanny
Yeah.
Yeah.
who they absolutely adore.
Yeah.
So that's a real treat to have that time and that help and that cultural experience for your children too.
Yeah. So a bit of a Seminyak
Oh,
villa.
do you remember when we used to be able to travel?
I know.
Oh,
I know. And what about last house is family, obviously thinking in the future, anywhere in the world where you're raising the two boys. Where would that be, you think?
right now at the moment, it would be in our suburb, Miami or Mermaid Beach, but just on the better side of the highway.
Yes, yeah.
So we didn't have to cross that busy road to get
so
to the
I
beach.
get you. I call it, so she's shoes distance at the moment, not quite barefoot yet, or yet.
Oh, we'll go barefoot.
Barefoot? Yeah.
But it gets a bit hot.
It's tough, yeah. It's a good effort. And lastly, Liz, just if you were to give one sort of tip or key takeaway for buyers out there at the moment, what would that be from Liz Cantor, you think?
Don't be afraid to chase your dreams and settle.
Love it.
Yeah, really go in there for what you want and see if you can make it happen. Be proactive.
Be proactive.
That's awesome.
Jeez, that's a good way to finish.
She's good.
She's good.
Told you she was good.
You'll see her pop up
guys.
more and more. Thanks, Liz. Really
That's right.
appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me in.
Thanks, Liz.